We should get started. So good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Craig Foley, and I'm the CEO of Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador, and I'll be your MC for today. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's free Leveraging Your Digital Marketing and Social Media in Uncertain Times webinar. Though we are faced with many challenges these days, more and more people are consuming digital marketing and media more than ever. This webinar is in partnership with our regional destination marketing organizations, Adventure Central, Destination Labrador, Destination St. John's, Go Western, and Legendary Coast, and will be led by digital marketing professional Sheldon Payne, digital marketing consultant from Newfound Marketing, and Laurie Dempster, digital and social media lead for Newfoundland and Labrador Tourism Digital Team. I guess before we really get to our presenters, just a review, we do have the chat window open. We will also have the question and answer window open. So at the bottom of your screen, if you select those bubbles, you'll be able to put in, contribute to the chat, as most people are doing right now. But it's also a place to put questions in the question and answer box. Laurie's colleague, Candace Walsh, is also here, and she'll be answering those on the fly. So I guess you didn't come to listen to me, you came to hear some good content. So Sheldon, maybe you can start with a brief introduction of yourself and bring us through the content.
Oh, great, thank you very much, Craig. And for everyone who's here this morning, okay, so I guess a little quick intro on me. I'm the owner of Newfound Marketing. We're a digital marketing agency here in St. John's. We've been around since 2012. And we have a team of 8 people, and we specialize in social media marketing strategies, inbound marketing strategies, SEO or search engine optimization, digital media management. So that's all the Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads. And we also provide web design and development for a number of businesses that we work with, as well as one-off projects. I've personally been in this space now for over 15 years, so anything pre-Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, none of those things existed when I began. And so now, here we are. So the agenda that I want to walk you guys through today is, why is a digital strategy important right now? And then we'll go through, in terms of an internal audit, things that you could be doing with your business or could be doing with your business right now before anything begins to reopen. What will be some of the quick wins and short-term plan that you can put in place, and as well as some of the long-term plans. So what's going to happen beyond 2020? So things that you can begin to do for 2021, 2022, and beyond. So why is it important? One thing that we've seen, I guess, since this pandemic is the increased use of digital media across Canada. So if we just look at some of the stats here from ComScore, you can kind of see what the average use has been, and then we see roughly around since February through, this takes us till the end of March, that we're seeing more and more people are visiting digital media channels, and they're spending a lot more time online than they previously have. And with regards to some of the channels where people are spending their time, we're seeing an increase in email. We're seeing an increase in instant messaging. So that would be your Facebook Messenger, your text ads, your Instagram DMs, your Twitter DMs. And obviously, we're also seeing a really big jump in social networking, which is, I think, going to be very important in terms of some of the strategies that we want to implement and put in place as we move forward. You can see there, like the average daily visitors now is, it's about, the percentage is up 36%. So that's a lot more eyeballs and a lot more time being spent on social. And now is a good opportunity to kind of leverage that and take advantage of it. So a study that was done, or a survey that was done of some of the top 250 CMOs when the virus kind of hit us, is in terms of what people are going to be doing and what marketing professionals are going to be doing more. And I think in the beginning, everyone kind of paused, and then now once we kind of get an understanding of where we are and how things are going to move forward, some of the areas where where CMOs and companies are going to begin to invest. Obviously we can see the numbers here. So 28% are going to do more advertising. 18% are going to do more content marketing, which I think is super important. With all the new eyeballs and time that's being spent on social, people are looking for more organic growth. How can I optimize my website for SEO? And then there's a 12% increase there in social media. So to put that in context, the 12% is there for social, but without the content marketing and creating the content, there's really not much to kind of add for social. So those kind of numbers go together. So right now, as we've kind of in an idle time and waiting for things to open and reopen, there's a number of things that you can do within your business. And the first, like anything else that you probably want to be taking care of, is just going through an internal audit. So here's some of the things that you should probably be looking at internally, and things that you can probably look at between now and maybe over the next 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks. So if you haven't already, one thing you may want to have a look at is, what are the resources and skill sets that we have in-house? Do I have the ability to take good video? Do I have the ability to take good photography, edit photography? Do I have the ability, or do we have the ability to write good content? And if so, those are some of the skill sets that maybe are not where you want them to be in your company or in your organization, then what resources and skill sets do you need to get? And when we look at the timing of things and how important this season is going to be in future seasons, is that something that I can look to outsource, or is that something that I want to do internally? Right now, you should also be looking at who's going to be setting the strategy and what's going to be the process. Obviously, the strategy that we would typically have for an upcoming tourism season could be a little different than the one that we're going to put in place for 2020. So what is that strategy going to look like? How are you going to measure? Who's going to be responsible for measurement? So is that something that's going to be you're going to take upon yourself? And what is it that you're going to measure? Is it going to, you obviously want to be measuring website traffic. You want to be looking at bookings and reservations and phone calls, and who's going to do that? The other thing that's a really good opportunity to do right now, and I think a lot of people have stepped back and taken the time to do this, is, do you need to update and become more educated or get more training on some of the tools and resources that are available to kind of keep you on par or to take you to the next level? So the very first place that any organization should be looking at, I think at any point in the year, is to look at your website. There's a lot of factors of, no matter what you do on social or what you do in other places, at the end of the day, people will typically come and they'll want to visit your website before they as they make their plans and their travel plans. So questions that you may want to ask yourself, if you haven't already, is, when was the last time that your website was updated? Has it typically been updated on an annual basis? Is that something you do in the fall, early winter? Who updates your website? So, is that something that you can do yourself? Do you have a company that's developed the website for you? If so, are they still working? Do they still have the ability to make the changes? Are they busy? What changes do you need? One thing that's going to be important, again, and this is something that's been important for a number of years, is your website mobile friendly? So basically, Google says that, if that 61% of people are unlikely to come or return to a mobile site if they're having a problem getting to a site on their mobile phones or smartphones, and 40% then will kind of go and visit a competitor that does have a mobile friendly site. So it's super important that if your site's not updated for mobile, check with your web developer or your, and make that option available to make your site more mobile friendly. When it comes to the way that people are going to be doing business now and in the future, what are my options for online transactions? So obviously, if you have a booking system, I think that's fantastic. If you don't have a booking system, now would be a really good time to have a look at a booking system and getting that situated and in place. And if you have a booking system, are you optimized? So what are all the messages that are going out to people who are booking? Are you providing them with all of your social media channels? Are you providing them with blog content or video content of things that they could be doing before they get here? And obviously with all the changes that will take place as we prepare for this season and beyond, we're going to have to look at the safety protocols that are going to happen. And with that, do you need to update your message? So do you need to update your emails? Do you need to make changes to your website and include all the safety measures that you will have to take and you'll have to put in place? I think consumers and travelers, as we begin to move around the province and beyond, they're going to want to know what are the things that you are doing to keep me safe as a traveler. So if that's something that you haven't thought about preparing for your website right now, that's something that I think I would begin to look at, and what are all the safety measures that you have to do. With regards to your messaging, I think a lot of the discussion around this season in particular is going to reflect the resident traveler, the people who are here, the staycationer, as we call it. And is that messaging that you currently have on your website, is that something? So if I'm doing research from Goose Bay or Corner Brook or St. John's or St. Anthony, is the content that you have on your website now, does that reflect me for this season? So is that something that I need to put in place, and what changes can I kind of go ahead and get in place? The next thing you'll want to do is you want to begin to have a look at your analytics and kind of get a sense of, you want to know, are the people who are coming to my website, are they engaging with my site? So, obviously we take a lot of time and we put a lot of detail and attention into getting people to come to our website through Google or through social media or through email. But when they get there, what is that experience? Are they coming and landing on your website, and are they there for 10 seconds or are they there for 10 minutes? What kind of content are they engaging in? And when you begin to look at that a little deeper, you need to begin to think, like, how can I make my marketing campaigns more effective and accountable? So if I notice that people are not staying on my site for very long, can I change that content? Can I add some video content in there? The content that you're creating, is that effective content? So are the visuals nice and appealing? Are they, one thing that would be important to think about would be, are the photos that you're putting on your website, are they optimized for the web? So, are they, if they're big file sizes, because, like most cameras are today, then that will slow down your site. So, you want to be able to keep the nice crisp imagery, but you also want to make sure that, what kind of an impact does that have on my site? And then if people are coming to your website, one thing that you'll want to have a look at is, why are people not booking? What are the processes, or the process that someone will have to take to make a booking on my site, and where are they stopping? Where are they holding up? So, you're spending time to get people to come to your website, but how are you getting people to go through the entire process and make that entire booking? And then lastly, you want to know how you can improve that site interaction. So can you make that content more deeper? Can you go back and look at some older blog posts that you have, and can you add to those blog posts, add more images and add more video? The reason why you want to do that is because you want to begin to measure. You want to measure the success of all the time and energy that you're putting in place. So you want to think about, is your traffic going up or is it going down? I suspect in some cases the traffic is potentially going down right now, but if you don't have the tools in place, so the Google Analytics, if they're not installed, you don't know all the work that you're doing and how it's working. So one thing that I would really suggest, if you've got Google Analytics, please double check to make sure that you've got goals set up. So some of the goals that could work obviously would be bookings, emails, phone calls, all of those things set up as goals on your website. And a regular thing that you should be doing, regardless of the year, is always to have a look at some reports. Get a sense of how people are finding you. So if you're spending a lot of time and attention on Twitter, and then you look at your analytics and you realize that, well, no one's coming from Twitter to visit my website, so perhaps you have to make some changes. Maybe more people are coming through Google, so is that something where I can invest more time and energy and create more content that's going to allow me to get more people to come from Google? Lastly, When it comes to measurement and analytics, if you don't already have this in place, it would be super important to get your pixels installed. Typically, the pixels that you'd want to have in place would be for Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And just a short, brief explanation on what Pixel is. So it's just a small snippet of code that goes on your website. And what it will allow you to do is it will allow you to be able to build a list of all the people that are visiting your website or certain parts of your website. And then you can go back and you can actually create a remarketing campaign, which we'll get into a little later, to be able to, so people who visited your site and didn't book, you can kind of provide them back with some more information or a new offer or a new deal or a new coupon for them to come back to your site and then to complete that process. One thing you also want to begin to look at is you want to look at your SEO. So this is your search engine optimization. This is all the traffic that would come to your website from Google. And typically this would come, this is what a lot of people would consider to be the free traffic, but there's work that has to be done. So, if you haven't already, familiarize yourself with a little bit of SEO. There's free SEO reports that exist. We can probably send you back a free SEO report that we provide to people who want to get an idea of where the current status is from an SEO perspective. You want to double check with your on-page SEO. So do you have your title tags updated? Is your meta descriptions updated? Are all the images that you're putting on your website, are they labeled correctly, or are they just labeled with the information that is taken on your camera? So instead of like img4525.jpg, can you label that image correctly? And all those things have a big factor in terms of the amount of where you rank on your website or within Google. You also want to look at some technical SEO pieces. And right now that's becoming more important. So things you want to look at, we discussed the mobile friendly aspect of it. If you're going to be taking bookings, then you want to make sure that your site also is secure. So if you've got an HTTP site currently, and you can look at that in the browser, then you may want to go and take the process of getting that updated to an HTTPS. And that will just be another check mark for Google to kind of bring you up in the rankings a little bit further. When we talk about hospitality pages and travel related pages, one thing that's super important, and for any website, is speed. But because most hospitality pages will have a lot of very crisp imagery and a lot of video, you also want to make sure that you've got a good hosting program in place. Not necessarily the cheapest hosting, so maybe you've got to increase the hosting package that you have to be a little bit faster, because Google wants to only send people to sites that are fast, and the users that are coming to your site, so whether they're coming from desktop or they're coming from mobile, they want to make sure that they're getting to a website as quick as possible. As we looked at the statistics before, 61% from the mobile perspective, but from a page speed, you definitely want to be able to have a fast site or people will move on. The other opportunity that I think really exists right now is to look at your external SEO, and that is you want to be able to get an idea of all the sites that are pointing back to you to increase your domain authority. And I think one of the benefits that we have right now is that if we think of this as a big group, we've got a lot of opportunity here to collaborate with each other and to get people to share your link on your website and vice versa. So there's opportunities there to share with other operators in your within your region, within your communities, to connect with your communities and make sure that you've got your sites are on the community websites, and then vice versa, you're putting the community websites back on your site as well. And the more of that you can do, the more domain authority you get. And the more domain authority you get, the higher up that you go in your Google search ranking. So that's something that I think everyone can probably do for this season and beyond, is to communicate with everyone that's here and that's attending this webinar, that's in the H&L community, that's in the hospitality community, and just all around kind of look for those opportunities to increase that domain authority. The next thing you want to have a look at is your social media. Are you present on all channels? So if you haven't been present on all channels, you've only focused on one or two channels, this could be a really good time to revisit. Do you want to explore new channels? Obviously, TikTok has been increasingly important over the last probably 6 months. So if you're looking to go after the moms, or if you're looking to go after a younger audience, TikTok has aged up really fast. It's a video-based platform, and it's really skyrocketing right now. And is that something, or is that a channel that you want to have a look at? If you haven't looked at YouTube, is that a channel that you want to investigate as well? And are there channels that you've invested in the past, and maybe it's time now to spend a little bit more attention to come back and revisit those? One channel that I think it's really taken off, or it's always going to be there, is Facebook. So it's super important maybe to revisit your Facebook strategy. And again, what messaging do you have out there? What are you currently saying? Or you're not saying anything at all. So if you're not posting, you definitely want to get back on posting on a regular basis. The next thing you also want to have a look at is your Google My Business. So if you're not aware that Google My Business actually has an opportunity for you to make a post, same as you would make a Facebook post or a Twitter post or an Instagram post. You can actually make one from your Google My Business account. And that's something that I would really recommend for you to kind of take advantage of. And also have a look at updating your social profiles. So, can you update that for the upcoming season? What changes can you make? Is there any new photography that you took last year that you can implement and kind of get that in place? Last, and the next thing from an internal perspective is email marketing. As we looked at some of the statistics earlier, email marketing is super important, and I think it's one that many people overlook. If you have an email marketing list, that's fantastic. If you don't, today is a great day to start one. When is the last time that you've communicated with your email list? Do you send a regular newsletter, or are you just kind of using it sporadically to send out deals and packages? One recommendation that I would probably begin to think about is to think of your email marketing as an extension of your social media. So it's your list. You want to be able to have a look at how can I execute? Do I need to segment? And what messages do I want to get out there, and what can I relay to people? So email marketing, I think, is going to be super important. If you're not already doing it, I'd definitely make sure that you're revisiting email. You also want to have a look at your content. I think content marketing, as we looked at earlier, is going to be super important. So review your current strategy. If you don't have a strategy, it's certainly time to begin to think of one. Look at your content inventory. Do you need to update blog posts, photography, videos? Are there any gaps? So some of the gaps that may exist right now is that a lot of the content may have been that you've created in the past may have been there to attract people who are from out of province. So do you have content that's created right now to attract people that are in province? So you want to look at that, and then if you need to update that content, how can you fill the gap there? You then want to have a look at your paid media. So while it's hard to think about spending money right now to get people to do things, paid media is super important, especially on the social platforms. While social media usage is going up, advertisers are also beginning now to shift budgets that traditionally may have been in other areas, and they're putting that money into social media. So you're not only battling with people that are in different parts of the province to attract someone, you're also going to be battling with car dealerships, clothing, fitness, food. So there's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to get in that space. And if you're not going to be spending money on the paid side, then the organic traffic that you're going to be going after is probably going to be a little bit smaller. And you want to make sure that you're taking at least some budget to spend in paid. And where do you want to spend that money? So do you want to spend it on Facebook? Do you want to spend it within Twitter, Instagram? You definitely want to make sure that you're going to be spending money within Google and YouTube. And if you have been spending, then maybe you want to look at the copy that you have, and how do you begin to change that copy to go back to reflect maybe the resident traveler that's going to be there. And think about when you want to restart your ads. So, right now, I would probably begin to think about creating content and getting video content in place, and maybe putting some paid media behind some of that content to create the destination awareness and letting people know about the area. So when the travel becomes available, people already have a destination in mind. So whether that's going to be East Coast, West Coast, Central, Labrador, South Coast, right? So people are going to be making plans. So you want to make sure that you're capturing that, and you may have to spend in the paid media space to get some of that attention. The next thing that you'll want to look at is your marketing technology stack. So basically, what tools are you using or not using? Are you looking at getting new tools? Do you have the right ones? Do you need to invest in new tools? The good thing is right now is that a lot of the tools that are available are offering good discounts and free trials. So it's a really good opportunity to have a look at what some of the tools that you may want to invest in. Here's a short list of some tools that you may want to look at. So from an asset development perspective, Canva is a great tool if you're doing social media, video, and you want to make sure you've got nice graphics. Then Canva is a nice free tool that you can use. The Adobe Creative Suite is great if you're creating more video or you want to get a bit more detailed with Photoshop. Great areas to be in. If you want to really look at your SEO, tools that you could look into would be SEMrush and Ahrefs. Social media, obviously, I think one thing that you want to look at is some of the scheduling apps that will be available. So trying to plan out that content ahead of time. Some of the top ones that I like to recommend is Aorca, which is a local company. You've got Buffer, Hootsuite, Later, Sprout Social, really good tools to be able to think about planning that social media in advance so you can make sure that you're reaching people on a constant basis. If you're going to be working with multiple team members, project management could be important, so Asana is really valuable there. We talked about email marketing, so some of your booking systems probably have email marketing that's available, but you can also look at tools like MailChimp, ConvertKit, Constant Contact, and create your email program from there. Paid media, I think Google ads, Facebook ads, YouTube is certainly going to be important for this year and beyond, if it's not already a part of your strategy. If you look at a more an advanced level, there's CRO, so that's conversion rate optimization. So this would be really digging into the website traffic that's coming, and what pages people are visiting, changes that you can make, tests that you can put in place to help increase those conversions. And those are a couple of tools that you can begin to implement. And I'll go back to the measurement and the data. And Google Data Studio is a nice tool that's available to be able to go and maybe take some of that analytics data and Facebook data and maybe create some top level charts that you want to put in place. And I find that to be really helpful to kind of dig into what's happening at a macro and a micro level. And lastly, from an internal perspective, have a look at training. Again, we talked about what are some of the educational and training opportunities that exist. Some of the free options that exist. There's the Google Digital Garage, so you can go and learn all about analytics, Google Display, search, all free from there. The Facebook Blueprint program, it's all about creating content and doing Facebook ads and learning all the good process and ins and outs of that. HubSpot has the HubSpot Academy, which is a really good tool to learn about all the things that you can do and utilize content marketing to attract more people to come to you. And then if you want to look at some of the paid programs, there's the Garden Center, the Digital Marketing Institute, Brain Station, Digital Marketer, and I think the other part would be with the changes that are happening, there's also an opportunity to look at potentially getting a digital marketing coach over the short term, just to get an idea of what is it that you can do in the short term and what you can focus on in the long term. And that's there's a number of them that are out there, and they can probably help you with some of the quick things and analyze some of the opportunities that would exist for you. So now that you've done your internal audit, which again, could take a week to 2 weeks to kind of get all those things in place, and you have a really understanding in terms of where you currently are, you want to begin to develop your new plan. And what does that begin to look like? And the first thing you want to have a look at is, like, who is your audience? So you want to potentially think about creating consumer profiles. So think about who is it that you're going to attract. So if this season is all about the resident or the staycationer traveler, how do you break that group up, right? So are you looking to attract the over 50, over 60 segment, and then just create a little persona or an avatar, and think about who these people are, where they work, what they do, what some of their online media habits are, and begin to create some of those consumer profiles to really think about how you can reach that particular audience. And then maybe you want to do the same again for families with young children, families with older children, students, young professional couples. Create all of those customer profiles, and then begin to think about how you want to attract those different audiences for your business and what you'll have to do there. Some of the quick wins that you can begin to do after you've done your audit is to go and update your website copy. Again, your COVID-19 safety plan, update your copy for the resident traveler if you haven't already done that. Perhaps this year and beyond, you're going to be looking at new experiences and new offerings. So if those things haven't been updated on your website yet, those are definitely things that you want to put in place. I think a lot of people are going to be looking into the cancellation and rebooking policies. So make sure that you have those clearly visible and stated as well. So people who are doing the research, they can look and they can feel comfortable to book and to cancel with you if that opportunity, if that does happen. Let's hope that it doesn't. You also want to make sure, is there an opportunity to add video to your website? Video is becoming more and more mainstream, and it should be a part of your website if it's not already. And I think there's lots of opportunities right now to add that to your website. Testimonials, look at people who've had a good experience with you in the past, and bring some of those stories, if you can, bring them on your site, make them clearly visible, and kind of get those out there. The next quick win that you want to have a look at is, look to the province. So look at the Newfoundland, look at your newfoundlandandlabrador.com listing. There you can make changes there. Can you improve your description, update your images? Is there links to your social and your TripAdvisor? Like, are those things that you currently have in place? And you can make all of those changes with the operator portal, or you can also contact the provincial government there at NL Tourism Operator Portal at gov.nl.ca. So that will be a very quick win. That's probably something you can do today. You can do over the weekend and have a look there and get those changes and make that, again, think about who it is that you're going to be looking to attract. So who are those customer profiles, and then how can you change your descriptions and your images to attract those people who are going to be visiting Newfoundland and Labrador, to find out what to do, where to go, where to stay, what packages and offerings are going to be available. Again, update your Google My Business. If you're changing your hours, make sure you include those. Google My Business provides you with an opportunity to add new photos and videos, trying to get those on there as well. Google could often be the first touch point for you, so people who are finding you may find you through Google first, and if they are, you want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward, and updating your Google My Business will be a great way to be able to let people know that all the fresh images and video and everything that you have. Add a post explaining how your business is changing, and that's something that you can repost every 7 days, or you can create a social schedule the same as you would for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, or TikTok. Then you can post that to your Google My Business account so people can see that you're staying active and you're staying updated, and you're keeping people updated in terms of how your business is changing and changes that you're making for them when the opportunity comes to come visit. I want to go back to email. I think email is a quick opportunity there. start using email if you're not already. Don't worry about losing subscribers, but I think what will be super important is to, um, you know, segment your audience right now. And if you haven't already, go into your email marketing program and try to separate your resident and non-residents into two different lists, and begin thinking of a plan that you want to put in place for the resident traveler that's probably going to be here for this year. And then what content do you need? Are there deals and packages that you can send to them? And again, think of email as part of your social media strategy, and think about how you can grow that list, right? So think about growing that list today. So when the opportunity for travel does come about, that list begins to grow, same as you will grow another social channel. So whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, think of email as another social channel, and your goal there is to grow that list. So once you kind of have some of those quick wins in place, it's time to begin thinking about your content marketing. And some of the things to start, if you haven't already, and I'm sure many of you already have, is to, how can I build content for the resident travel? And a lot of the things that you may have done, or maybe you want to revisit, is to begin thinking about some of these questions and think about, what makes your community special? Why do people live here? For people who haven't seen, who haven't been to your part of the province yet, what is it that will be interested learning? I think there's an opportunity, there's an educational element that will be available this year for people with maybe with young children or older children, is to think about, what's some of that content that you can create. What are some of the less traveled places that people locally would like to go, but maybe is not something that's frequently known about? And what are some of those areas? And I know there's so many across the province that are out there that do you have content for that, and how can I update that content? What stories are available? Other, what's the history with your region and with your community, and what are some of the stories that exist, and how can you create some of that content? I think also, like, one of the things that's going to be super important this year is that working together with different groups, individuals, and planning in terms of like how we're going to bring people to a region or to a couple different communities, and how when that happens, like what's that experience going to look like, and how can you help each other, and how can you create and collaborate on content that can be shared across whether it's with your DMO, or with the province, or within the community, or within yourself and a couple of different operators. Think about all that, and what does that look like, and then begin to think about those content gaps, and look at all these questions. And if you come up with some answers there, and you don't have that content in a video, or you don't have it written, that's a really good place to start on the content that you want to create. So once you get some of those ideas, you want to begin to develop your content strategy. So what type of content do you want to create? And we want to look at, do I need to get new photos? Can I go take new photos? Do I need video? I think video is going to be super important when I think about platforms like YouTube, Instagram, IGTV, which is an extension of Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. I think video is super important across all of those. Text is also super important. So, can you create blog content that's going to be on your website, and use that as an opportunity to help get more people who are doing their research to visit the content that's going to be on your site through text, through blog content. And you want to think about, what content do I need to create the awareness of, my region and my community and my offering, and then what content do I need then to create interest in creating the desire to go and to come and visit, and then what packages or deals or offerings are there to help the traveler to make the decision. And then lastly, how do you get them to take that action? So those are all things when you're creating your content plan and your strategy, is to think about all those things. And then once you begin to create this content, what's often overlooked is the distribution. So, how am I going to get that content in front of people? So we'll go through that right now. And the first place is, I think the easiest place is social. So once you've got your updated content strategy and you begin to create new content, or you're updating old content, look to social and think about, do I need to update my social profiles? Right now, like, do I have visuals of crowds, for example, and maybe that's not something that I want to add to my social profiles. The key images, your Facebook cover photos and those things at the moment. Is there anything that I can create that's a bit more with wide open spaces? Is that something that I can do? How can you highlight more of the region and the community? And I think what's important now is that if you've kind of paused your social, I think it's important that you kind of get back and start creating that content. People are getting, I think, a little fatigued of seeing all the COVID updates, and they're looking for an escape. So, remind them of all the beautiful things that we have across the province, and keep posting. And I think when it comes to social, I think there's an opportunity to post 7 days of the week if you can. Look for inspirational content to create that interest to go, and that desire to go and see our beautiful province. Think about the history side of our province. We're such a deep historical place, and there's tons of history that exists, and I think people would love to learn more about what's happening all across the province, the history that's behind it. So how can you embed that into your social, the culture? Everyone talks about our culture, and how can you kind of bring that to life, right? How can you kind of bring that back on social? So I think it's important to think about creating content on a more regular basis, being more social, engaging in those conversations, and look at creating channel specific content. So I think it's you can certainly post the same content to all of your channels, but try to, if you can, update them for each of the channels. So what you would post on Twitter, maybe the caption that you have could be a little different, or what you post on Facebook could be a little different. Think about, again, that audience that you're trying to attract. And so if you're posting something to TikTok, so how would you create that content for a TikTok user, versus if you create something on Facebook, where the user on Facebook could be a little older and the user on TikTok could be a little younger. So think about how you can change that content, or the same idea, but bring that content to life on different channels. One thing I think that's going to bring us together is the use of hashtags. So there's a number of hashtags that are available to use, and try to create and use more of those hashtags, because people will begin to look to those hashtags and have that community engagement. So make sure that you're using hashtags, and now you can actually use them across multiple platforms. Twitter has always been a hashtag environment. Instagram is really heavy on hashtags. But more recently, Facebook as well. So in the past, Facebook really hasn't been like a big use of hashtags, but now we're seeing hashtags being used on Facebook more often. So I'd probably recommend using maybe 1 to 2 hashtags on Facebook, and that's going to become more popular as well. And I want to go back to that collaboration. So try to incorporate other social accounts to create more of that engagement on your post. So it can be the DMO, other operators, people within the community. Trying to tag people in there and kind of create some of those some of that community engagement, and get people talking. I think one thing that's important, but is maybe not easy to do all the time, is to be available. Social media is a 24/7 game, and people could be posting and messaging you at all hours of the day, all hours of the night. So think about how you can, what is it that you can put in place to prioritize those conversations. and listen to your customer as well. Have a look at, what are the questions that people are sending you messages on, and then, again, do you have that content on your website, or if you're getting the same question over and over, can you create an FAQ that you can then turn into a social post, or maybe you want to answer that FAQ with a video post. So, listen to the conversations that are going on and can begin to think about how I can relay that information back to people and your future travelers through images, through text, or through video. From an SEO perspective, I think the key thing right now is to think of this in a couple of ways. It's going to take a couple of probably 1 to 2 months for any SEO updates that you're going to make. So you want to jump on that pretty early, but also think about that in terms of what you can do for this year, but the content and the SEO that you're going to create. Again, what's going to be that added value and SEO that can put in place to attract people for next year. And don't only think about SEO from a Google search engine perspective, also think about SEO from a YouTube perspective. So YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So if you're creating YouTube content, make sure that you're also taking the time to optimize your video to show up in search as well. So those are things you can look at. One thing that everyone has access to for free is the Google Search Console. It's a really good place to go and to get a sense of how you're currently performing with regards to free Google search. They will provide you with the top pages that you're showing up for, where you currently rank for those pages, some of the terms that you currently rank for those pages. And what you can do is maybe look at some of the older content that you have, and is there an opportunity then to update some of the content that's ranking well and just add a fresh perspective on it, or to update that content. And that's going to help you jump up with a number of other factors in search for free. Then you want to have a look at paid. And so the ways to approach paid, I think, is to, if you're not already, Google is probably going to be super important, as it always is. Make sure that you've got a brand campaign in place. Many businesses kind of overlook this. They rely on their Google My Business, or they rely on the free organic traffic. But a brand campaign for Google Ads basically is when I type in your business name, there should be a paid ad on the top, and this is your opportunity to provide me as a potential visitor for you to give me, like, what is the best package that you have, or the best offer that you have right now, to make sure that I can kind of really jump in and own that. Typically this traffic is not going to cost you very much because it's your brand. However, what you may see, and sometimes what does happen, is that with brand campaigns, you probably will this year see other people competing on your brand. So that could be the aggregator sites like a Booking.com or an Expedia, or it could be your competitor down the street who's going to be bidding on your name as well. So it's super important that you have a brand campaign, so you can make sure that you're in that top position when people are looking for your business and they're looking to stay or make a booking with you. So make sure that you do that. When you're doing paid search this year, obviously you want to filter that out for people that you're trying to reach geographically within, our province. And I think you also want to have a look at Google Display. Google Display is a very good way to show the offer that you have, to show and highlight your community, your area. And some of the areas that we've seen that's kind of changed since the pandemic has begun is that news has become super popular. So there are a lot of people that are visiting news sites, so nationally, regionally, locally. Is there an opportunity for you to create content to be in front of people while they're browsing the news? We've seen a huge uptake in the food category as well. So is there an opportunity there to use Google Display to get in front of people who are potentially going to be looking to make travel plans at some point this year? And weather. Our province is so weather dependent that we probably look at the weather 2 to 3 times a day. So do you have is there Google display opportunity there for you to create a set of banner ads for when people are looking at that stretch of 7 days or 14 days when we're going to have the really good weather. Do you have banner ads to attract people who are looking at that and probably looking to make travel plans? Super important area, I think, to be in. And with Google as well, I talked about remarketing earlier. So that's, if you're not already doing that, begin to think about implementing a remarketing campaign. So this would be people who have already visited your website who may or may not have maybe made that booking with you, and it's just kind of a reminder for them to maybe come back and maybe finalize that booking. And I think another opportunity that would exist, extremely well is to look at YouTube video ads. So if you don't have video as part of your current strategy, I'd really recommend looking into the YouTube video ads. They're quite affordable, and with more people now consuming YouTube content, not necessarily on their devices, but also consuming as part of their everyday on their televisions, I think there's a really good opportunity there to think about YouTube videos. Then we want to have a look at paid media and paid social. So as I kind of talked about earlier, if you're only going to use social media and you're only going to rely on organic traffic or just making a post and not putting any money behind your post, you're probably setting yourself up for failure for the year and for future years. It's a very competitive space. There's a lot more eyeballs, a lot more competing, a lot more people posting, and with that, the organic post that you make is going to be seen by less and less people. So it's important that you think about your paid social on Facebook and Instagram. Who can you target? Obviously, the easiest people to target are what's we like to call the warm audiences. So these are people who have been visiting your website, but perhaps haven't made a booking or contacted you. If you have an email list, there is an opportunity on Facebook and Instagram to actually populate that email list and to target the people that are on your list with programs as well. And all the social media engagement that you've had over the last year, you do have an option to be able to target those people and remarket to those people again, and we call those the social engagers. So whether that's on Instagram or Facebook, you can retarget these folks and again remind them in terms of it could be the new offerings or deals or bringing people across the province in different areas. So that will be something that I would definitely set aside a budget for, is to make sure that you've got some budget set aside for paid social. And then obviously you can have a look at cold audiences, and those cold audiences are going to be creating your Facebook ads and going after those audiences that we talked about early on, the over 60s, the families, the students, the young professionals, even the solo traveler, and creating, again, paid programs and ads that are targeted specifically to those people. And when you do that, try to make sure that if you're going to include people in an ad for someone that's over, over 60s, for example, try to include people that kind of fit that age range as well, and make sure that you can filter out your audiences geographically in terms of the areas that you're looking to attract people to get them to come to you. And so that's your short-term plan, that all the number of things you can do for the upcoming season. And then obviously we want to think about your long-term plan, and it really is all, if you can get the strategy for the short-term plan in place and implemented for this year, you can kind of use that as a template to create your long-term plan and revisit all of those things and go back and build on your content marketing. Think about the content that you can create for 2021, 2022 and beyond. Have more time to think about more video marketing and how can you do more of that. When it comes to a rebound campaign that could be for 2021, you're going to have to maybe update your content a couple of times in terms of what's happening, so you begin to think about that. And then I think there's always going to be an opportunity to look at creating new assets, right? So what are the offers that you're going to have? New videos, updating paid media again, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, And I think one thing that's going to become super important is to make sure that you do have an email marketing program in place. Some of the things that you'll be able to do maybe this year for your staycation or resident program might be things that you'll want to continue or to put in place for next year for other programs as well. And then lastly, once you've done all of these things, it's going to be super important to make sure that you've got tracking in place. You're going to put so much time and energy to create a new content marketing strategy and do paid media, and do social media, and invest in this. And it's you want to make sure that you're tracking it and having a look and making sure that it's working, so you can tweak and make adjustments. So just a quick recap. We talked about why it's important. The increased use of digital media usage is on the rise. Don't see that changing anytime soon. Take the time to do your internal audit. Have a look at that now. If you haven't did it already, now is a good time to start. Look for the quick wins. Get those things up and running. Maybe that's those things you can get in place in 7 to 10 days. And begin thinking about your short-term plan. So what is that content, the gaps that are needed to fill, the mediums, so whether it's video or images or text-based, what do I need to create, what assets do I need to create, and then how do I get them out there? So whether that's going to be social with existing channels, or you're looking to maybe jump on new channels that you haven't done before. Make sure that you've got your paid media program in place and kind of get that ready for when you do want to start. And then always, again, let's think about the long term here in terms of what are the things that you can do and get in place this year that's going to benefit you, for this year and beyond. So that's it for me. Just a quick recap in terms of what we do. We provide digital marketing services in a number of areas right now, and I'll hand it over. If you want to be able to keep in touch with me, there's a number of ways you can stay in touch, and I'll leave it up for questions and hand it over to you. Back to you, Craig.
Thanks, Sheldon. This is Juanita from Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm going to kind of aid in the transition here, but we do have one question there from Robin. Could you please provide an example of create channel specific content?
Yeah, sure. So when you're creating content on Facebook, for example, you have an option to create, your captions can be longer. But when you create content on Instagram, you want to think that most people will only see maybe the first sentence. So you want to adapt that content maybe to get maybe the call to action or the most important part out as soon as possible. And if you do Twitter, you have even less space as well. So you want to make sure that you're maybe going to tailor some of that longer form content to be a little shorter.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Get this working. One second. Okay, there's another question. How can I get more people to follow my Facebook page?
That's a great question. I think one of the places to start, if you haven't already, collaborate with other Facebook pages. I think right now it's a really good opportunity to think of the community from a bigger perspective and look for opportunities to cross-post, to have people follow each other. Will be one great way to start. Another would be to send an email to people that are on your email list, and just give them a little reminder that you're on Facebook and some of the content that you're going to be sharing, and maybe even ask them some of the content that they'd like to see, so you can, again, listen to what people are asking for and then create that content. Tagging people as well is also super helpful. So, tagging accounts on Instagram, for example, you have an option to tag up to 30 people. So look for those opportunities to create engagement. And I think the other way that you could do it, if you do have a media budget, so if you do have a budget to spend some money, you can create some content, video content or post. And then I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but when you make a post on social, if 300 people like that post on your page, when you go into the likes, if you're the Facebook admin, there's actually an option there to invite those 100 people. So if that's something that you're not currently doing, I would probably, and that's something you can even do later this morning, is to go back, look at maybe some of the successful posts that you've had recently. And if that's something that you're not doing, go back over the last 6 months and invite all the people. There's a limit, I think it's around 500 per day, and invite the people who have engaged with you in the past to come back and to like your page. So.
Okay. Give me a minute there. Okay, next question. I may have missed your explanation, lots of beeps and buzzes. What do you mean about with strategic alliances with Google, for example?
So we have a relationship with Google and Facebook. So we meet with, a rep from Google and from Facebook, and we'll talk about our Google Ads accounts that we're working on with our clients and get some suggestions and tips and new options that are available. So if something new comes down from Google, we will typically be one of the first people to hear about it and be able to use it for our clients.
Okay. Okay, what I'm going to do now is we're going to move on to the next presentation, and then we'll come back to some of your questions. So our next presenter, get my mouse to go around, is Laurie Dempster, and he's the digital lead with Newfoundland Labrador Tourism Marketing, and I'm going to throw it over to Laurie. Just want to make sure you're all seeing his presentation. Second, my mouse is deciding to go a bit. Okay, Laurie, are you ready?
I am. Thanks, Juanita. So I guess I'll have to, I'll get you to advance when as we go. Well, first of all, good morning. I just want to thank Sheldon for his excellent presentation. There's a lot of great stuff in there. He's got a lot of actionable things and a lot of really good practical takeaways. So just want to say great job on that. Hello and good morning to all of you. This is a real pleasure to be with you. I want to thank, first of all, Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador for allowing me to talk to you this morning. I want to thank Craig, Juanita, Mike, Chanel, really the whole crew there for inviting me to be a part of this. So if we just jump ahead to the next slide. I think it would be appropriate just to take a second to talk about everything that's been going on. This wouldn't be a presentation if I didn't mention one of my dad's favorite sayings, which is, any situation, it's important to talk about where you've been, where you are, and where you're going. And as a provincial marketing organization, if we go back to sort of when all this really kicked off back in the middle of March, we didn't go radio silent. We continued to tell our story, to continue to tell the story of this place. We paused television, newspaper, and paid advertising, but and then of course when it came time for icebergs, we didn't launch Iceberg Finder after a brief delay, and that's for obvious reasons. But we did continue our digital programs, specifically our social media. And at first, really the goal was for our content to be a welcome distraction for our audience. And then we've now since shifted our focus to allowing our audience to explore virtually while continuing to keep our destination at the top of mind for future travel when that option is available. And overall, what we've seen as a result is an increase in our engagement with our audience. We're seeing the average time on our website go up, newfoundlandlabrador.com. We're seeing engagement with our social media posts go up as our audience views and shares our content as they comment on it. The social sentiment, sort of the what people are saying about our content has been surprisingly good. The comments, the feedback have all revolved around either people who have been here before and they are sharing stories about their past trips and experiences, and then others in our audience are then engaging with that. And then anyone who had planned a trip here, who was obviously disappointed that they can't travel, they're talking about how much they're looking forward to coming whenever they can. So maybe that's a little bit later, maybe it's 2021, maybe it's just sort of at whatever point they're able to. And so I think that's been such a nice thing to see, is just how solid our audience has been, and what that response has looked like, and how it's been overwhelmingly positive. Just a couple of numbers that I would share. If you look year over year, so if you look at May of 2019 compared to May of 2020, engagement with our social media posts is up 183.5%. And I think that reflects with the approach of sharing relevant but entertaining and sometimes longer form type content to our audience so they can enjoy it at home. So that's sort of where we've been, and then kind of where we are now. We'll get to the where we're going part, which leads us to the rest of the presentation. So we are planning to launch a robust advertising campaign encouraging residents to get out and explore, to vacation in Newfoundland and Labrador this year as soon as they are able to, as soon as the appropriate health level is reached. And in this case, I believe it's level 2. So just a couple things. I mean, I'll say this a few times, and I know Sheldon has touched on this too, but just ensuring operator listings are updated to newfoundlandlabrador.com. We would like, ideally, if you could do it by June 15th, refreshing and adding new travel offers to nl.com. Again, ideally by June 15th. And then we will follow up with operators again as soon as we launch the campaign to let you know how to engage with us. And that leads to this slide right here, which, or just go back one if you will, Juanita. I'm just talking about content marketing. So, Sheldon talked about it a little bit, but, content marketing is it's really critical. And it comes to life through digital channels, and especially in a crisis. So when this started, the first thing we did was, we went back to sort of, where have we been? So we went back and we looked at our back catalog of content, and we identified what we had that could be repurposed to allow our audience to explore from home. And early on, one of the first things that we decided on was more, let's say, sort of longer form, more relaxation type content. So one of the first things we pushed out was called Peace and Quiet, and it was a 5-minute, breathe in and breathe out video, which had these sort of very kind of Zen-like meditative qualities that allowed our followers to escape for a few minutes. And since then, we have posted 360 experiential videos. One of them was Cape Spear. There's another one from Petty Harbor. And more recently, we've begun to repost things like our slightly longer form digital video, The Secret Language of Clotheslines, as an example. And the response to that has been incredible. The organic engagement has been amazing. And it's continued to allow our audience to explore from home while keeping the destination at the top of mind. You can jump ahead there, Juanita, one more. Yeah, there's the Peace and Quiet and the 360 video. I just took a couple of screenshots for you. I'm going to jump ahead to the next one. Yeah, so this ordinarily, the opportunity to speak to H&L, normally what I would talk about is, I would delve a little bit more into our program, and it would be a lot longer, and I would talk about our content strategy, and it would be quite a lengthy but important presentation. But I really only took one slide of that deck. And it's just to say that the best part of what our destination brand, what all of us put together, is the inspiration and the information. Okay, you want to jump ahead one? And so to that point about the information side of it, when the time is right, communicating with your audience about, it could be the simplest of things, like if your business is going to be open this year is important. Let them know if you're going to open. If you're not going to open, if you're going to be closed, let them know that you're going to be closed. Maintaining that link of information with your audience and followers is really important. Sheldon touched on it as well, but just to reiterate that updating certain information on your website and through your channels about, rebooking information, what your cancellation policy is, etc. That type of information is also important, and it maintains that link with your audience. You want to jump ahead there, Juanita? So one of the things that we've seen that's worked for us and that we've seen operators do is that they are able to, in this time of crisis, they can bring their experience to life through their digital channels. Certainly as it's to our properties, it's just as important as ever to make sure your listings are up to date, that you have submitted the travel offers and packages. But then also, if you want to jump ahead one more, it's important to make the offer and the experience, relevant. I already alluded to the concept of the resident market, but when travel restrictions do ease, the first group of people that are going to be able to move around are obviously going to be the resident market. And from our point of view, it's important to make the offer or the experience relevant to that. If it isn't, or if you feel that it isn't, then how can it be made to be more relevant? And so what we're seeing from other parts of the world, other destinations, that as restrictions ease, in spite of everything, people are really just interested at first in hyper local, which shouldn't be much of a surprise, and then traveling locally. And the things that we're seeing over and over again is that what people prefer, obviously, is limited crowds, locations that people have space to move around. And thankfully, that's one thing that obviously Newfoundland and Labrador does have quite a bit of. You want to jump ahead one more? So in terms of actionable things, I'd like to talk a little bit about content development. And sort of on that note, in terms of offering maybe some insights that we've seen from what we're doing, here are a couple of ideas that we've implemented that could help. And the first thing would be resharing your best. So I alluded to that earlier. We went back through our catalog and just looked at things that had performed well. We just looked at things that we thought might perform well, and pulled those up and put them into our content calendar. But we also, it's also a good idea to try to share new things as well, the experiential content that your audience can see themselves in. At the same time, inviting audiences to share their memories. And that's one thing that we've seen do very, very well for us, is if you ask people, what would be your favorite this or that, whether it was sort of a tour or your favorite aspect of what your visit was, and what are your best memories. And Sheldon also alluded to video. Well, one thing that performs very well in social media is video, live video in particular as well. Tours, how-tos, really anything that you can broadcast to your audience, which allows them to experience what it is, what your product offering is, and what it is that you have to offer. And I'd like to offer just a couple examples of that. Nina, if you want to jump ahead there. So just a couple operators who have done a really good job of bringing their experience to life. The first one I'm sure most people would have seen, Trinity Eco Tours, the skipper Bob Bartlett. He produced this fantastic virtual tour, and it was just such a great way to see, to get a glimpse of what his product offering is and what the experience would be like. And he just did an incredibly good job about it. And we're just, I just thought that was a great example. And then in terms of information and sharing communication with your audience, Rafting NL is a really good example of really just kind of laying out what their product offerings would be, and what would be available at sort of each health level. And their website there, I think it's raftingnl.ca/COVID. They lay out everything that would be available at at each different health level. And you really, that is such a fantastic way of communicating with your audience. You're really just laying everything out for them and allowing them to make the decision on their own. I think they did a really great job with that. We jump ahead one more there. So in terms of social media management, I know Sheldon jumped into it a little bit deeper, but just to reiterate that even in this type of environment, staying engaged is really important. There's also the potential there for you to listen and see what's going on in social media. And one of the things that we talk a lot about is the idea that, the conversation is going to happen whether you're a part of it or not. So it's better that you're a part of it and listening than not. And one tool I think that's free is Hootsuite, and it allows you to do a bunch of different things. Certainly, it allows you to manage your social media accounts, manage what you're going to post and when, but it also allows you to do some social listening. You can set up some pretty simple searches based on keywords or usernames, and just kind of keep an eye on what's going on in a certain area. Another thing you can do on social media is to engage your potential customers, your audience, and if they have questions, answer them. Try to provide some value, give them some feedback, and if you don't know the answer, you can always refer them back to the government site. If you just gov.nl.ca, the COVID banner is right there, and the most up-to-date information that they have available is there, and so you can always point them in that direction. And just that type of interaction with your audience keeps you at the top line, even if it doesn't have anything to do with sales. It can help keep you at the top for when there is the potential for them to travel again. And just to remind, we all know this, but being authentic and friendly and patient, that's really who we are as a brand anyway. Our channels have been there, and we have been there, and we've been on through this whole thing. And so it's also important, if it's possible, to engage with us. You can follow along with us with what we're posting on Facebook and Instagram, and where it's relevant, you can engage with our audience. That's what we're there for. If our audience is answering a question that is specific to your specific market or your product or service, please jump in and answer a question, or you can share relevant information, or you can share a story, or whatever it is. That type of that really is what social media is about. And so that type of interaction with operators improves our brand, that improves everything. Also, please continue to use our hashtags. Our official one is still ExploreNL, and where it's appropriate, obviously for the time being, you can continue to use sort of stay home, stay safe messaging. A couple that we've tried out, wait to ExploreNL and hashtag ExploreNL from home. I just wanted to close by saying that our organization exists because of you, the operators, and we've continued to tell our story, and we are going to roll out a campaign as soon as we can, as soon as we're able to. And our goal, obviously, one of our goals is to make you guys proud. And so, I just want to take a second to thank everyone again for allowing me to come on here and speak to you and speak for a few minutes. And thank H&L once again for the opportunity. So thanks a lot. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Lori. Thanks for your great presentations, both you and Sheldon, this morning. We do have a couple of questions in our queue here that we can address, and if anybody else has a question they'd like to ask before we clue up. So Carl asks, speak to video content for tourism, catchy beginning and CTA at the end, lens quality. Sheldon or Lori, any comments on that one?
I could speak from our point of view. I think, at this point in time, I think the thing that I would focus on is sort of the genuine aspect of it and the experiential aspect. Ordinarily, we'd be talking about having a call to action at the end of it. But I think in the time that we're in, allowing your audience to experience a genuine piece of who you are and what your experience is like is perhaps more important. So that could just be, if it's a walking tour, it could be a couple of minutes of, the great scenery and you just talking about a couple of things. That could be as simple as it is. in order for that type of video to be effective, it doesn't need to be highly produced. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be glossy, but it does need to be genuine. Really showcasing who you are, and allowing people to, allowing you to convey the genuine aspect of, who you are as an operator, I think might actually be more important. So it's kind of a tough one to answer, in context of the situation, but I think that's probably your best bet.
Thanks. Sheldon, anything to feed in there?
Yeah, I guess maybe one thing to think about, I'll go back to each of the channels, and being content specific. So obviously, if you're going to share a story on YouTube, I think it's important that you kind of shoot wide. I think Lori mentioned that as well. It's going to be important to shoot wide for YouTube, so think about that. Facebook will be the same, but then if you're going to, think about your Instagram user or the story user, where you've got more of the vertical phone, so you might want to shoot a little differently. Think about who that audience is. So I think, like, when it comes to, if you're going after a younger audience, you might want to think about something that's going to be a bit more exciting and appealing and shorter and faster, to kind of just to create that energy. But if you're going after an audience that maybe like this a little bit older, maybe you want to slow it down, be really explain what it is that you're going to do, and kind of think about, again, who are you speaking to, and then kind of put your video out from there. So that would be kind of the way I would maybe approach it on that end.
Great. Okay, another question. Are giveaways an effective way to gain followers on social media?
Okay, I can jump in on that one. Easy answer is yes, certainly is. However, there's a caveat that I always put in place with the giveaways. And while it's great to get people to follow you because of a giveaway, you need to think about the algorithm in terms of the way the platforms work. So whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and whatnot. So if you're putting out a contest with the goal of just gaining followers, you can achieve that goal. If you're using your social network to reach people who are going to invest in your company and your brand, contests might not be that, because you want to make sure that what happens with social is that when you make a post organically, if you've got, as an example, 1,000 people that are following your page, the platforms will send out your post to a test sample. And if that test sample engages with your content, then they will expand on the next, they'll send it out to like the next level. And then that process continues over and over and over. If you're sending out a post and you've attracted an audience that really doesn't, want to maybe do business with you, but they saw a contest and great, cool, I'll, take the actions and follow your page. Then when that post goes out to that person, they skip that, and then your engagement goes down. And then so the more people that you collect as a follower, but they don't engage with you, the more times you post, your engagement begins to go down and down and down, further and further. So I wouldn't necessarily be thinking about how many people that I can gain as followers, but I would be thinking more about, I think to Lori's point, and what we typically try to encourage is to get people who want to engage with you and create that conversation. So being authentic. So a bigger audience doesn't necessarily mean that more people see it. But to answer your question, if you want to do a contest and get more followers, you can do that, but it may not help you with your overall goals.
Great, thanks, Sheldon. One last question. When should we begin our campaigns for summer 2021? Okay.
I will just reiterate I'll just reiterate a couple of things. First is that, we're going to launch our campaign as soon as we are allowed to. So we will wait until we get the okay from health authorities, and when the appropriate health level is reached, that's when we'll start ours, and we're not going to do it before that. We will wait until it's appropriate. I would just like to remind operators to submit their information, the listings, the travel offers, the packages, do that through nl.com, and to, if possible, try to get it done before June 15th. That would be great. And that we will be sending out more information. Excuse me. We'll be communicating more, and we will send out more information through our e-news platform. So we will keep you guys up to date through that. That's about all I can say about it at the moment, but yes.
Oh yeah, just
Get
to
ready.
reiterate, they said summer 2021, so not this summer, next summer.
Oh, summer 2021.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's an interesting question. Yeah, I mean, I would just continue to, continue to do the things that you've been doing, and, wait and see, like we will continue to communicate with you through operator e-news. So, I mean, that's a great question. I don't know if I can answer it right now.
Thanks, Lori. Well, I think we've come to the end of our morning. All the questions are answered. And so I'd like to thank Lori Dempster with the Department of Tourism, Industry, Innovation, and Culture, I think is in there too, and Sheldon with Newfound Marketing. Yes, we were going to post the recording of the webinar, so look for that in the days to come. I'll also like to always thank our partners from the Department of Tourism, Culture, Industry, Innovation, ACOA, and of course our regional destination marketing organizations being Destination St. John's, Legendary Coast of Eastern Newfoundland, Adventure Central, Go Western, and Destination Labrador. So thank you all for coming this morning, and we'll do some follow-up with you after the event. Thank you.